When I was asked to join this talk, my reaction was I didn't want to be here, and I still don't want to be here. And the reason I don't want to be here is the very reason I am here. I am here because my sister was killed. Her name is Daphne Caruana Galizia, and I work for the foundation that was set up in her memory. That is why I'm here today and why I don't want to be here today. Daphne was a journalist and she was killed because of her work, as unfortunately many journalists are. Journalists are killed because of what they write, and what they write remains after them, as does their reputation and their credibility. But before they are killed, they are often harassed. And those who harass journalists in life have the same reason to harass them in death. They undermine their reputation, they destroy their credibility, they try to erase their memory. This is what happened to Pippo Fava, Mario Francese, to Giovanni Spampinato, and to Daphne too. They were all journalists who were killed, who were then discredited, and whose murders at first were blamed on anything but their work. There's a pattern to the horror. First they harass you, and then they kill you. And then they kill your reputation, and then they try to bury your memory. And they do this to ensure their own impunity. At the time Daphne was killed, the deadliest beat for a journalist was not war, it was politics. And globally, more journalists were killed covering politics at home than in a war zone. And adding corruption to politics put 2/3 of dead journalists into a single category. 2/3. 2/3 of journalists were killed who are covering corruption and politics in their home country. And Malta is no exception. There are journalists today who are covering politics and who are uncovering corruption. They too are targeted, harassed. And again, Malta is no exception. The impunity with which journalists are harassed and murdered is not just an attack on media freedom. It is an attack on all of us, and it makes it a collective problem. Each blow against a journalist hits each and every one of us and sums up a social loss we see only when it is too late. The collective loss outweighs the individual loss. When a journalist loses their life, the living lose their right to know, to be informed, to speak, to learn, to understand. When a journalist is harassed, it should raise an alarm. And when those alarms ring, we should remember, they ring for all of us. That is because the free flow of facts and opinions, that is a stock and trade of journalists, creates societies that are fairer and freer, societies that are richer, more resilient. In other words, societies that are worth living in. And to explain why this matters, I'd like to use Daphne's words. In June 2017, a few months before she was killed, she published a piece called Right and Wrong Are Not a Popularity Contest. It was her reaction to the incredulity that followed the recent election. It was a long piece and I won't repeat all of it, but it went something like this. I wouldn't ordinarily put up a post explaining my absence when I'm going to be away from this site, or on it only intermittently for any length of time, but in the present circumstances, I believe I should. I know you don't have to tell me. It's the reason I do it. This website has, over the last 4 years, become a gathering post for decent people who feel frightened and threatened at the rise, growth, and spread of amorality. I know why you come here, because lots of you tell me. But I knew it instinctively even before you did. You come here to feel normal in a sea of insanity. You want reassurance it is not you who is in the wrong, because you think people who do serious wrong should not be in government. No, you're not wrong. You are right. 1 million people can be wrong. The rightness or wrongness of a fact, action, or opinion is not established by the number of people who believe it, who do it, or to hold it. Of course, it is wrong to vote for corruption. Of course, it is wrong to vote to put corrupt politicians into power. It is very wrong. Winning and losing are not factors in deciding what is right and what is wrong. Winning and losing are about the power to prevent wrongdoing or the power to perpetrate it. Why doesn't it get you down, somebody asked me the other day. How can you cope with an entire party machine going on at you day and night, assaulting you from all angles? How do you deal with it? I can cope. Not only because I had the good example of my parents to follow, but because I read widely and I know this is a standard textbook fascist method that powerful people use for the public destruction of their critics, particularly when the critics stand alone. The fight against corruption and the decimation of the rule of law must continue. The temptation now will be for people to see no way out of this horrible mess and to leap on the bandwagon with the cry that if you can't beat them, then you might as well join them. It happened years ago and has been happening systematically all along. But it is people who vote for political parties and not political parties which put themselves into power. The problem that has to be addressed is the widespread and ever-increasing amorality. It spans the entire socio-economic spectrum. We have to face the brutal fact of what we are and examine how it has come about and whether there are any solutions. I happen to think right now that there are probably none, because immoral familism, the root cause of it, is the result of centuries of social programming. But it may be possible. One thing is certain. You are not going to change immoral familism by pandering to it or by making its practitioners believe they are right. Remember that yours is the acceptable attitude, and no matter what others tell you, the behavior we are seeing now is not normal or decent simply because it has one. There is something else I should say before I go. When people taunt you or criticize you for being negative or for failing to go with their flow, for not adopting an attitude of benign tolerance to their excesses, bear in mind always that they, and not you, are the ones who are wrong.